Hey everybody, it's Thursday night. That means it's time for Shop Talk. I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics, and we are here to talk some comics. And tonight we have a really, really fun show in store, so stick around. Once again, big thank you to Nick Ellis of Two Brothers Comics for making this that super cool intro that makes us look way cooler than we actually are. Speaking of things that are cooler than they are or should be, what's happening, Alan?
Say hello to my little friend.
What's up?
How you doing, man?
Dude, I gotta be honest with you. I'm excited about tonight. I really am.
I'm really excited about tonight too because this is somebody I've been wanting to talk to for a really long time, and we had a perfect opportunity line up to do it, and she was silly enough to agree to come on the show. So I would say let's not waste any time. Let's bring her on. What do you say?
I do not want to waste any time. Let's jump right to it because I have like a very important question that's been nagging me all day long that I have got to ask her like right out of the gate.
You know, she's the perfect person to answer the Miss Piggy question.
Well, no, but the question I have for her, she's the only person that's qualified to answer the question that I do have.
Well, now I'm dying to know. Let's bring her on. Everybody, put your virtual hands together for Miss Katie Cook. How are you, Katie?
Get to do my own golf clap.
Hey, not every day you get to do that, and people don't think you're weird.
You know, but if you're just weird every day, people don't expect anything less from you, so it works just fine.
That's
it's
true.
Okay being the weirdo.
Eccentric
Embrace
is good,
it.
right?
You're
right,
gonzo. You
See,
get
I
to be
approve.
gonzo.
So I told you she can answer the Miss Piggy question.
Yeah, so the question that I have for you, and we'll get into it. Honestly, there's only two people right now that's going to understand what I'm asking, and that is me, and that is you. But there's only one person that's qualified. There might be others, but for the sake of the argument, it's just you and I. You're the only. Oh,
she disappeared
you're
for a
the
minute.
only
She's
person
like,
that's qualified to answer it. At what point at an artist and a writer's career do they say, I'm going to take the spirit of a dead radish and make it a viable, lovable, and important character, and you're going to fall in love with it?
That's a good question.
Okay. So I originally kind of told my idea for this series to another editor that I didn't know very well. I was just kind of like throwing ideas at the wall. And this was no obligation, no book agent involved in all this. And I kind of doubled down on, these little plant spirits. And like on the fly, I'm like making up, what's a cute vegetable? That's a question that I had to ask myself. What's an adorable vegetable? And then I thought of Fraggle Rock, and then I thought of the Gorgs, and then I thought of the Doozers, and everything is built on an ecosystem of radishes, or like the commerce of radishes. And it was like, radishes have a long-standing history of being important and being bitter.
Yes.
So Radish was born. He was a little bit more of a bulbous, like just a round spirit when I was doing like concept sketches. And then finally I gave him this more little like radish-esque body to define him from everyone else. And the answer is, to spite an editor that told me the radish was a dumb idea, you just say, well, I'm going to show you draw this radish and everyone's going to love it. Yeah. People are
I think a lot of things are created because of spite that turn out to be awesome.
Yep.
There's only one thing that I would love to see Radish do, and it just, Josh, when you read this character, you're going to understand. You're going to be like, yeah, I think Alan's right on this one. Radish needs to
rip
do
this book away from my wife first. She hardly let me bring it up here for the show.
But at some point, Radish has got to look at Lasser and say, I will smite you. I mean, I think that would be the perfect Radish line.
Well, I think it's at the beginning of book 2, where Callie and Declan are walking off to like go for a walk or something, and they invite Lasser, and Lasser says, "And be the third wheel? No, thank you." And Radish pops up and he's like, "You are fourth wheel at best."
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
they take a lot of jabs at each other later on because Radish does not like him at all. And then you actually see some of the defining moments where Radish starts respecting Declan a little bit.
Now,
Yeah,
so everybody knows what we're talking about. I'm going
Oh yeah,
to
duh.
embiggen myself here. We got a brand new book out, Nothing Special, Volume 1, Through the Elder Woods. And I got to say, this is about the same size, height-wise, as a fair number of the other books that would have a similar look. But this is a beast of a tome. This is huge.
It's 416 pages.
This is massive. And on top of that, the quality of this book is spectacular. All of the production values and such, and the price tag is extremely reasonable for all of this. This is amazing. So that everybody has an idea, well, we're kind of going to go in backwards order a little bit this time. We normally start with origin stories and things, and we like that. We're going to start in media res this time. Tell folks what this book is, why it has a spite radish in it, and what makes it so fun and so cool. And we're going to talk about that some, and then we're going to ask you some questions about how in the world did you get into all this nonsense that we all love so much.
Well, it's Nothing Special, which basically started as a webcomic on Webtoon. They paid me to make a comic every week, and this is what I came up with. But it centers around, at first, Callie, who is a 17-year-old girl who has always kind of straddled the real world and a magical world, because her father owns a magical antique and bookshop on the other side that they can access kind of through a portal in their home. And I have in later books, it touches on the fact that there's a bureaucracy involved to getting a portal like open in your house. But I kind of got the idea. I love Neil Gaiman. Let's face it, who doesn't? And
there's a handful of weird people, but they don't count.
Yeah. But that idea that I've always loved from like Stardust and Neverwhere is that there are just these little cracks in the world, and if you go through that crack, there's this whole other world that you didn't know about. So it basically started from there because I really wanted to tell a magic story. I like magic and high fantasy. Lord of the Rings is my jam. Even though I work for, licenses like Star Wars, and I have for a really long time, but I also love, like I said, just magic in general. My Little Pony was fun because I got to write magic and make horse puns. It was great. But, when Webtoon approached me when they were trying to break into the US market, they said, make us a comic of whatever you want and we'll pay you. And
well, how do you turn that down? That seems like a surefire thing to do.
Yeah, so I left My Little Pony because I wanted to write a magic story, and I wanted them to be my characters, and I wanted them to go on adventures that I came up with. And that's where I get Callie, straddling that universe. And then the big meet cute at the beginning is this boy kind of slams into her trying to get into the school because they're late. And then they both realize that he can see these little spirits that float around, in the world, because only people with magic in their blood can see them. So they go on an adventure after they've befriended each other because Callie's dad goes missing on her 17th birthday. and she finally has an incentive to go out and about in this magical world when she's been kind of kept inside the city limits her whole life. Basically, for her own protection. But, she thinks her dad's just a helicopter parent. And it's the adventure that they have out there. I get to, start world building and showing people what the whole series is going to be like. And, we meet Callie, we meet Declan, and they eventually meet Radish when all of these little spirits are gathering around her. And one is really pushy. He basically is the one cat in your house where you're its person, and no one else is allowed to sit with you. No one else is allowed to talk to you. And he's slightly stalkerish of her.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Just a little.
But it's out of concern. And, there's also, a demon prince who's not important in his own family because he's 87th in line for the throne.
Which I found hysterical for some reason.
Yeah.
Because Lasser comes across as being every cheesy character from a rom-com that's trying to get the girl rolled into one person.
Yep. And that is on purpose because I hate love triangles in YA books. I hate them for two reasons. One is because I know, like, if I was a teenager reading it, I would have been like, ooh, the vampire, let's go with him. Whereas as a parent and an adult, I'm like, that werewolf is much easier to hide your identity. You're not dead. You don't have the moral conscience of having to consider immortality. And he's got a steady job. Werewolf. And I get it. But in my book, I get to say, I don't like this. So I introduced Lasser as that, what would have been the fun, aloof, prince that comes in and is very charming. And now Declan is furious. And I just had him be an asshole right off the start. And Callie pulls a knife on him. That's how well that goes down for him. And he starts following them around like a little lost puppy, convinced that he can change her mind when it's just not happening. And then all of a sudden he's learning from them, which is a big part of book 2, is how Lasser starts to interpret the world via 2 people from a world he doesn't know about and a stack of romance novels from Declan's grandmother's basement that are all from the 80s.
Oh, good Lord.
Yeah.
But you find, you want to root for Lasser even at the end of the first book because you're like, well, that poor guy.
Yeah, you can see he's actually trying toward the end of the first book. Because so for everybody that doesn't know, on Webtoons, the way they're set up is, and I've seen them different ways, they're either called seasons. Well, most is just about everything is called a season, but I've seen some writers call them chapters, and I've seen other writers call them episodes. So
they do it as a season. So the one story arc is a season.
Yeah, and the first season is what, 29 chapters?
Yep, that was my first contract, and they limited me to 29 chapters. But that's
big.
Yeah. But I mean, I blew through all 29 chapters. I mean, just could not quit reading it. Lasser, though, probably had one of the funniest lines in the entire book, and it was kind of actually, he had 2 of them. It was kind of my sense of humor. When he said something along the lines of, I'm not pawing her, I'm wooing her. I thought that was funny. And then, and I don't want to ruin this for anybody, but when you find out who her mother is, and then in the next book, you actually see something else happen, and Lasser goes, oh, so that's how it happened. or that it makes sense now. As an adult, a child can read it, but as an adult, you're thinking, okay, he just said what I was thinking.
Yep.
And I mean, that was great.
Yeah, you have to write in layers, especially for a successful YA or all ages material, which is one of the things why I think My Little Pony was so successful, is we approached it as all ages material. So there are jokes that the parent is going to get that the kid is just didn't understand it. And that's how I like to write my characters anyway. But I mean, you see it in, using words like oubliette or references to MASH or something like that, where, no one gets it but me and people my age and up.
Yes.
But
so I have a
get
question
I think it's funny.
about Callie, because the first couple of pages, I get the impression that, and I feel like it has to be purposeful, that she's kind of in some ways like a spiritual successor to Calvin from Calvin and Hobbes.
Pretty much.
And looking at it through that lens, I mean, the whole Callie ball, her first the name Callie, and then the Callie ball thing at the beginning, right? I instantly flash back to Calvin and Hobbes. And then I think if you were to take this young girl, put her in this world, and then quickly age her up to like high school, what do you get? And before my wife wrested this book away from me and I was able to dig through it, that's kind of the trajectory that it looked like things were going down. So I wanted to see if that was on the money or what the thought was, because Calvin and Hobbes is obviously one of the best things that was ever created by a human.
Bill Watterson is every cartoonist's dream. He made something beautiful that is going to inspire generations. He made enough money to disappear into the woods of like somewhere in Ohio. And then he became a recluse where nobody can touch him. We all want that in life.
Yeah.
Yep. Did you see his most recent book?
Yeah.
I forget what it's called now. It's just like one word title, I think. But
yeah, no, I saw
that was very interesting. It was like a little fable.
And
that was just just its own little thing.
But no, it's, Callie is like this ADHD bonkers, like it's what a manic pixie girl would be if you actually met one instead of just dreamed of meeting one. But she's like, you can throw your keys over in a corner and she'd be like, ooh, shiny, and then leave. And everyone
Nick
else
says I'm
like,
all for reclusing.
Yeah. Me too.
Nick, while you're on, this is a book that you definitely need to pick up, because it's one of those books that you can read to your daughter. And I saw Tots on earlier, but we probably already missed him because of something else he has going on. If you're back watching this is one of those books where you're going to enjoy it as an adult, but you can also read it to your daughter and even do voices and stuff to it. It just kind of feels like one of those type books.
Well, see, now you've put yourself on the spot, Alan, because I have to know, what does Radish sound like to you?
Radish almost sounds like...
I need an impression. And you got to do the voice.
I would have to think about it, because
don't embarrass Katie.
I could picture Radish as trying to have a deeper voice, because he's trying to be more, more masculine and more assertive, even though he's really not, because they could kind of just push him away whenever they want. I did like that. Okay, I'll think of a Radish voice. Well, like in one particular frame, they're kind of getting their stuff together. I don't want to give anything away, but they're getting their stuff together because of something that's happening. And Declan just kind of grabs Radish and just puts him in his hoodie. And you see Radish just sitting there just mad because he had just been handled. It's a funny character, and it's a good character.
Yeah, it's in my mind, Radish is Rhys Darby from Flight of the Conchords and What We Do in the Shadows.
I can see it.
And so that's kind of that little like New Zealand lilt
I love
in my
Flight of the
mind,
Conchords.
anyone from Flight of the Conchords, actually.
I'll Be the Racist Dragon is one of my all-time favorite songs. But
it's
now I haven't thought about them in a little bit, but now I'm going to have that one on my mind.
Now,
well, it's a lot of what Radish says is what I'm thinking at the time, either writing or drawing it. So he could also be me.
okay,
Just a cranky old lady.
I mean,
you're neither cranky nor old.
yeah, you're definitely not either one of those. I'm cranky and old. You're not cranky and old. The one thing that I wanted to ask you about when it comes to webtoons, you talked about they had approached you and everything.
Yeah.
And I've actually got my webtoon account pulled up over here if you want to see it, Josh, so we can kind of show people what we're talking about. But webtoons is an entirely different style format. You know, the way you scroll through it and everything. As an artist and as a writer, did you kind of have to, how did you, I mean, was it difficult to adopt to doing it that way and having to lay out instead of doing it more like a traditional comic like we were used to, say like a My Little Pony?
Yeah, you know, it's look at my career. I started doing regular comics. Everything goes in a box and you don't go out of the confines of that box. Like that's what I was taught, you know, making comics basically growing up by reading stuff. It was like we're all confined in here. And you can really tell in the early part of the book when I was getting used to like what I was doing. You know, one, I had not really drawn a lot of stuff digitally yet, and this is all digital. And then I'm trying to panel, thinking about I have to put this in print eventually. So I was still thinking of it in print for a little bit. And then Nate, my letterer, we kept getting a note back going, make the text bigger, make the text bigger, make the text bigger. Because you have to be able to read it on a phone.
Right.
And somebody at Emerald City last weekend called it a waterfall format. And I think that is a perfect description of it. Because once you really start playing with it and you see it in the later books, it's so radically different, you know, from what it's going to be online to what it's going to be reformatted for a book. Because I have panels that are 70 inches tall, you know, and you can use white space and, you know, speed lines and this in different ways that draw the reader down and build up the intensity of a moment that you usually get with a page turn. So yeah, playing with it, it's a blast. And
does it make it harder to do a reveal because you don't have that page turn?
No,
Okay.
you can use different ways. Like think of some of the ones where I have like the gradient of the sky leading into the big moment. That's almost like the page turn because you're now having to scroll through, you know, a pattern or some art that leads you to the ta-da moment. So I have so much fun playing with it. But yeah, like I said, see, that's the first chapter, panel, because I was like, I can rearrange everything. And it's interesting. The only person who has touched every single bit of Nothing Special is Nate, who is my letterer and also a very dear friend. And he was with me in my studio, which is in my basement. And David Peterson was there from Mouse Guard and Jeremy Bastian.
I love Mouse Guard, yeah.
Yeah, Cursed Pirate Girl. And I don't Jay Fosgett might have been there at that point. But we were all talking about the webtoon format and how I was trying to like retrain my brain. And Nate said, that's going to be a bitch to put into a book later on, you know, with how crazy you're getting. And I always said, that's future Katie's problem. That's future Katie's problem.
Well, how does future Katie feel about it now?
Future Katie had 10 speed via Penguin Random House, hired Nate to reformat the book.
Brilliant.
That's a good idea.
That's future Nate's problem. Well done.
I
like how
made
you operate.
Future Katie's problem became present Nate's problem via his prediction, 7 years ago of that's going to be a bitch to put into a book. And I won that argument in the end. It took a while to get there.
Well done. So first of all, I think we're making the point here. We have copies of this at the store, and if you're not local to us, get it at your local LCS. If they don't have it, go to Barnes & Noble. If they don't have it, Amazon does. There's a million ways to get it. Buy this book. It's extremely reasonable for the incredible quality that you get here, plus the amazing story. And as always, you're supporting really cool creators. If you don't support them, then they can't eat. If they can't eat, then they can't create the things that you love. It's do the thing, spend the money,
these people
support creators.
To see that they like me, so they keep letting me make books.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot more of this to come.
Nick, she has 3 seasons and 71 chapters to it. There is no way I'm scrolling through the entire thing. I'll be doing it on my personal time reading it.
Well, they're going to look so pretty on the shelf.
They do.
They're going to reveal the cover for book 2 probably next week. It's been finished. They wanted to wait for book 1. But it's got a little radish on the side, and each one has a different radish face that they all line up.
Nice.
And all of the vines on the front are they all connect into every single cover.
Oh, so I can't wait to stock those all side by side, face out on the shelf. That's going to be great.
Because if it turns into 6+ books this size, because season 2 is going to be 2 books this size. But when you put everything in, all of the art is going to match up.
Oh, that's brilliant. I love that you're thinking about that, because we get so many trades from companies that they don't line up. They don't number things the same way. So you put them all on the shelf and they look horrible next to each other because nobody put any attention into what the whole series would look like. So that's awesome that you have done that. Now that we've talked about this book, and we're going to circle back to it, but we normally start with the origin story. So we want to do that because we're all comic book people. We're suckers for a good origin story. So how does little Katie Cook, past tense, tiny little Katie Cook, end up being the kind of nerd that is like, I'm drawing comics, I'm writing comics, and I've got all these stories bubbling in my head. They're going to come out, and they're going to do it in a way that makes a lot of other people happy. How do you get to that point?
So my mom has a picture of me that we actually just dug out because they want to make it like my bio picture for stuff. Me in my kindergarten picture, and you have that little chalkboard, and it's like, when I grow up, I want to be an astronaut. Mine says, I want to be a cartoonist.
Wow.
Because I wanted to be Charles Schultz. Because Charles Schultz made Snoopy.
And now I have that tune in my head.
Yeah. Well, it's, I really learned to read it by reading newspaper comics when I was growing up. My mom and dad would get us up because my dad had to leave early to go do whatever the hell he did at General Motors that requires you to be there at an ungodly time. And then my mom had to be up to be at the school before any students get there. So they get us up, throw a loaf of bread at us and say, make toast. And then they go get ready. And, my brother would, listen to music, and then I would just sit there and go straight to the nice pictures in the Detroit Free Press. And I would devour, back then, 3.5 pages of the newspaper comics.
Y'all must have had a great newspaper, because we only ever had 1 page of comics down here.
Yeah. Like I said, it's Detroit. Big paper. And then the Sunday comics was like its own thing. It's like every Sunday it was a tome.
Did you guys get Prince Valiant? Tell me you got Prince Valiant.
We did.
In your Sunday paper. Prince Valiant and the Phantom were always in the Sunday paper.
Yep.
And I loved those. But yeah, we had Hagar the Horrible, Beetle Bailey. Snuffy Smith. We had all that stuff.
Yeah.
Loved all that. Yeah.
But like I said, I loved Peanuts and I loved Calvin and Hobbes. And that's what I wanted to do with my life. It was like, oh my God, I have a purpose. My purpose is to eat peanut butter toast that I made myself, so it's burnt, because I am like 5 and I want to make these. So I can read them in the morning. I want to open up the paper and say, that's mine. So that's the only plan I've ever had, which is great because I'm not really good at math. So I don't know how I would survive in any situation outside of being a cartoonist for a living.
You make Nate do it.
Yeah, you make Nate do it. Like,
Nate,
I don't do the scut work. But yeah, and then I just was the artist kid growing up all the time through middle school. If you needed a group project where there was a poster involved, the only time I get picked first, that kind of thing. And, then I told my parents, it was like, I want to go to art school. And they said, okay, at least you're not your brother. He has a degree in philosophy from the University of Michigan. We're never getting that money back. True story.
So they're probably right about that.
That's
a friend of mine has a degree, a PhD in medieval philosophy.
Oh, he just took it there. He just said, I want to be a virgin my whole life. And
might as well go ahead and learn underwater basket weaving at that point too.
Yep. But yeah, and then I went to art school and I have a BFA with a concentration in illustration.
Wonderful.
From the College for Creative Studies in Detroit. And then I got a design job straight out of school in the Ann Arbor area where I designed like paper supplies for Target and stuff like that.
Awesome. Well,
but
I have a quick deviation.
That's when I started Gronk, though.
Oh, excellent.
So,
I have a quick deviation for you because we occasionally have a guest pop on who has special questions that they want to ask our guest, and we have one of those tonight, and I wanted to bring him on.
Hello, Gimpy.
No. Ew.
I come on backstage, and the very first thing I hear is "Virgin for Life." And I was like, "Oh, Katie's life story." Okay.
Hello. I told Andy, I said, "Hey, we've got Katie coming on to talk about her new book, which is awesome." And I said, "You ought to pop on the show and say hey, and ask her some questions." And he replies back with, "That is a horrible idea. What time?"
Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh, Andy, I love the shirt.
Oh, thank you. That dates us both. It's usually my
God
airport
is my
shirt.
witness.
It's not like anybody else would.
No.
But for anybody who doesn't know, what a twist. Yeah, see, we're all full of crazy up in here.
No.
Yeah, there you go. We got us an Andy Price on here. So this is a good segue because Katie is telling us about how she got started in this business and going downstream. How in the world did you go from, so you created Gronk, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you go from Gronk to this guy?
Was Gronk first?
Yeah, Gronk was when I still had my job out of college.
Okay.
That was before Fraggle Rock. But
down at Fraggle Rock.
But before Quantum Leap.
Wow. That's definitely aging you there.
Quantum Leap was, oh God. Oh my God. I did that comic book
30 years ago?
32 years ago.
32? Yeah.
32 years. Jesus Christ.
That's older than Jurassic Park.
So he's older than dinosaurs.
I just heard a vertebrae crumble.
What's funny is I had met you back then. I didn't know you very well, but I had met you back then at the comic shop in Decatur.
Which
The one on
shop?
6th Avenue.
Oh God.
It was just called the Comic Shop 2 on 6th Avenue because I worked down there from 93,
Not the one by
93
the
to
Hager
95.
brothers.
Yeah, I was there for 93 to 95. And that's where I met you and Lamar.
Okay.
Okay, but where was the Waffle House?
In Decatur? That is Decatur.
Wasn't it at the foot of the bridge when you first crossed over the Tennessee River on the
Yes,
left?
it was.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
We don't have them up here, so.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
How do you know where
I make
to
fun.
go when it's 3 o'clock in the morning and
You go to
everywhere else is
White
closed?
Castle.
That's fair.
Yeah,
Well,
but
we
White
have
Castle
Crystals
doesn't have
down here,
waffles.
which is almost the same as White Castle.
No.
But
Oh, stop right there, Josh.
I said almost. That was an important word.
No.
No.
No, they're not.
No.
No.
Explain to me the difference, if you would.
Well,
one has a White Castle. Oh,
one is a
okay.
White Castle. Yes.
And White Castle has a 6-pack of mozzarella sticks. They're not good and they're still frozen in the middle, but it's White Castle.
White Castle had, as disgusting as this sounds, White Castle had calamari.
Oh, vomit.
At one
Oh,
point.
wow.
It was very brief. Yeah, it was very brief.
Vomit. No, thank you.
They call them the chicken rings now. They're the same thing.
Yes. I guarantee they're the exact same.
They call them chicken
meat.
rings?
Chicken rings. Kind of like Burger King has chicken fries.
Mm.
Oh, yeah, it's White Castle has chicken rings. And my dad's joke was always, you only get one slice of that off the chicken.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
That's true.
Everybody gets it. We go lowbrow in the past cook household.
That's fantastic.
It's why Katie and I get along so well. We're very lowbrow. I mean, like,
I just thought she always had a tolerance for people who were not quite right in the head.
Yeah.
I do. Well, that too. I do have an older brother who has a lot of like spiders and lizards and snakes.
Please tell me the cat's name is Cosmic Creepers.
Morticia Adams.
Really?
Yes.
I keep threatening. We have a black cat, and I keep threatening to rename her Cosmic Creepers, and nobody lets me.
Nope, that is Morticia Adams, and I have no doubt she will probably not be the only cat to make an appearance.
Yeah,
No.
I have 5.
And
There are
Andy
5
used to
here as
have
well.
5 at least.
Yep, 5 here as well. So,
We only have
Yeah.
2, so
They don't like my wheelchair, so they stay away from me. You run over one cat's tail, and they all hate you.
well, the word
God.
spreads quick.
Stay away from her.
She's a
Oh, we're just going to
monster.
bring the whole cat tower here, huh? The throne.
Aw.
that's Lily.
It looks like she's sitting in a butt.
That's Lily Munster.
Lily Munster. She sits on the edge of my drawing table.
That seems like a great spot.
Not for
This
drawing,
is
but
Kaylisa's
yeah.
favorite night ever because there's cats. It's
Yeah.
Katie Cook and Andy Price and cats. This is her favorite things, like all in one episode.
Hi, Kalisa.
Oh, Kaylisa, while you're on, you were one of the other people I thought of when I read Nothing Special. You will love it. Just buy it.
Oh, yeah. That's,
I named it after Andy.
Oh, fantastic.
We need to have you on more often.
We really do. I like when she throws shade because she's good. She's got precision aim.
That's all we do to each other is throw shade. I mean,
Okay, so
He's got a lot to work with right now. My legs don't work.
based off of what I've heard from you two, when y'all were working on My Little Pony, did y'all ever do stuff just to mess with the other one?
I have to think that
I
answer is
so
all the time.
We knew each
All
other
of-
before My Little Pony, so
all of
How did you guys meet? How did this
well, we
unholy
met,
union happen?
we started working on the same project for the same company.
This wouldn't be Quantum Leap, would it?
No, Katie's not that old.
I didn't think she was.
No, it was those
like sketch cards.
Special art sketch cards for Rittenhouse.
Okay. I remember your sketch card days. Okay.
Yeah. Where we had to draw 50,000 Marvel cards in 2 weeks for a grand paycheck
quarter.
of $20
for $2 a piece or something.
Yeah.
But the exposure.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is weird. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it did lead me to meet a lot of people. Because Katie, Sarah Richard, Tom Zoller, I all came to know from working on those damn cards. So they are a curse and a blessing.
Sucker!
Yeah. But I saw some of Katie's cards and I emailed her. I got her email through our editor. And I said, these are adorable. And I asked, do you want to do a couple of cards together? And we did it. She drew a couple that I colored and I drew a couple that she colored. And that came to be a trend that some of the artists did. And then we finally got to meet at Motor City Comic Con. I think it was 2007.
I think so.
And the rest is just, a poorly written criminal novel.
Yeah. See, I was going to go with the true story, which is Andy and I sprung fully frothed from the ocean and landed on a beach in our flannels, holding hands and going, best friends, best friends. And then we looked at each other for the first time since our creation and went, and decided we needed to live in different states.
It was safer for the cosmos if we did not come together at all times.
Yes.
So
no
conventions are these weird portals, these little places in reality where you can bend everything by coming together at a con. Is that it?
Yeah. 72 hours is really pushing it, though.
Yeah. That's
so.
Natural disasters are occurring by the fact that we are together someplace. That's, if a hurricane shows up, we have been in one spot for too long. We have to separate again. So
you guys were both in California just recently, were you? Because they had a freak blizzard with 100-mile-an-hour winds and 12 feet of snow.
That was probably when we were texting for hours on end.
Yeah, I texted Andy a cat video, and sometimes we try to use the power for good by our standards, which are low. But
I will say we haven't had as many tornadoes here in Huntsville since you moved away, Andy.
See?
That's me targeting them.
Our idea of using our powers for good is like finding a decent pizza place, but that's about as good as it gets for us.
I put bugle chips on all my fingertips and I pointed a map going, Andy, 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 and that's where the tornadoes are.
Well, just so you know, he doesn't live here in Huntsville anymore, so find where he is and don't put him at us. We've had our fill. So speaking of which, so you guys met doing all these cards and everything. How did you, Katie, because as I understand it, you had the connection, you had the idea, the deal with Hasbro, with My Little Pony. How did that translate into bringing him on board? How did that come in? Do I have the right of that order?
Yeah.
Well, she hated the editor, and this was her revenge. Was bringing me in. So no.
How would you like this artist? I heard he can ink 20 pages in a 3-day weekend. Here.
So you lied.
Have him.
She didn't say they would be good pages, Andy.
That's true.
And then a cursed monkey paw somewhere lowered its finger.
And it too had bugle chips on the fingers. So.
The part that Edgar Allan Poe never told us about, the bugle chips.
But yeah, and it wasn't even a done deal. It's the editor, Bobby Curnow, liked my webcomic Gronk. and he emailed me and he said, "You're funny. Would you like to write
That's
for
not a
My
nice
Little
way to
Pony
introduce yourself
comics?"
to a woman. Hey, you're funny.
Yeah, you're funny. It's why so many men in comic books are bad with women. Hey, but
Hey,
it's
you're
just like,
funny. And she says
"You're
back,
funny?
you're funny looking.
We make love now? No. No. Pull it back. Pull it back.
The Eddie Berganza School of Comic Books. Okay.
But I said
About
yeah,
5 people out there got that.
Yeah. It's like I can write a full 22-page comic and not a 4-panel gag. That seems doable for a thing I've never done before, for a license that I was okay with in like 1988. What is it now? But I said yes. And then he's like, okay, we just need to find an artist. And it's like, we'll do 4 issues of it, and no one's ever going to want to read it. So we're going to put it in a trade for Toys R Us or something like that, and no one will ever see it.
Boy, were they wrong about that.
Yeah. But
Well,
that
we
was
all
the
were.
attitude towards it. And
we all thought it was going to be 4 issues at most.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then, was it at C2E2 or was it Motor City?
It was at C2E2 before they started seating us together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I walked past and Andy was drawing a Fluttershy piece of her under a tree.
Yep.
And I went, "You're drawing a pony."
He's like, "Oh, thank God."
She was like,
I'm very eloquent.
Are you drawing My Little Pony? I was like, yeah. She was like, you want a job? Yeah.
Ta-da!
But yeah, it was merely a matter of circumstance, because I had just started watching the show on somebody else's recommendation, and somebody at C2E2 just happened to ask me, "Have you watched My Little Pony? Would you be willing to do a pony sketch?" I was like, sure. And she came by, and 67 years later, here we are. So
that's incredible, because I got to tell you,
and then
it went
I would add tons
they're
of stuff
launching
that
a My
Andy
Little Pony comic book. It went from they're launching a My Little Pony comic book to our sales on that are better than Batman.
Yeah. I was at New York when they released the numbers where they were like, pre-orders are, I think it was over 125,000. And everyone's like, holy shit. And I'm just sitting here trying to set up my little banner at New York going, do. And somebody comes up and like basically grabs me and is like, "Did you see the news?" And it was like, I guess it's before the doors open, so this is an industry person there. This is okay, right? Manhandling people and screaming in their face. Is this what we do now? It's like, yeah, cool. What? And they were talking about the numbers on it, and I'm like, is that good? No one ever tells me shit. I don't know what numbers like are good or bad.
There was a video of somebody interviewing Katie at New York Comic Con, and Katie's face is like terror and confusion, because we had no idea until people were coming up to us saying, "This is what's going on." And again, we were convinced that this book would last maybe 4 issues. And even after it started, we were still like, this is going to die off immediately.
Yeah. And then it was like, and then all of a sudden, you're part of the bronies. Yay!
Just embrace it.
Same as jazz hands.
Just embrace it.
I did, and so did Andy. 99.9% of them are amazing and wonderful, and they are an amazing community that do a lot of charity stuff. But that's not the percentage you remember. You remember that 0.1%.
You roll over one cat's tail with a wheelchair.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And that's all fandoms. That's the Bronies, and that's the Trekkies, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
Star Warriors. I don't know what
The
hell.
Whovians. It's all
The
of them, yeah.
Whovians, yes.
Now,
But the Bronies were the new kids on the block.
Yep.
So all the other fandoms, including everybody else, was picking on them. So
Mm-hmm.
they shone brightly. That 2% shone very strongly. But now, thanks to the advent of 4chan and Reddit, you can see that all fandoms have their idiots.
that's
They all like
100% accurate. Yeah, Kaylisa's pointing out, if you remember, Andy, we had signings at the libraries here locally. Hundreds of people showed up. Because we did the one at South Huntsville Library, we did the one out in Madison with Mandy, that she set that whole business up out there. And hundreds of people turned out to get their My Little Pony comics and get their comics signed. And if you had told me before any of this started that I would ever see the day when that would happen, I would have laughed in your face.
Oh,
but God, you guys took something that shit had by no rights was going to be any good. I mean, it's My Little Pony, and you made it awesome. Well, and all the little in jokes that were hidden in there everywhere, the little, and again, the stuff you probably did messing with each other helped make it, because there's all these little Easter eggs just buried all over the place through these books.
Well, there was so much of it that, I mean, there was all kinds of things that I drew for me. There were all kinds of things that Katie wrote for herself. There were things that we did for each other. And I think a lot of our success was, God bless it, our editor was a sweet summer child. And most of the things that we did, that never should have gone through, flew right over his head. And he was like, okay, must be funny. Let it go,
Yeah, that's the thing. And with that first 4 issues, that one story arc, I don't think anyone actually read it. I think
no, they did.
Well, no one at Hasbro.
At Hasbro, probably not.
Licensing.
None of the official,
because I turned it all in at the same time, and I think Bobby, probably had a couple of notes. I misspelled something or something like that, but I don't think anybody at actual like Hasbro licensing gave it a look. They probably went, "Oh, it's a pony comic. It is what it is." They're probably what the comics were doing at the time were taking panels from the show and making each episode, a printed comic. It was dumb. They were terrible. Let us never speak of them again. But, I work in kids licensing, and they're like, she's safe. Andy, let's not look up any of his stuff. Let's just go on good faith.
Good call.
Which is exactly what they did. So.
And I wrote it to be the kind of shit that terrified me in every single 80s children's movie.
Yes.
Katie said at one point, which I bring up at panels a lot, is her measurement of what kids and young adults can tolerate is the Dark Crystal.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair.
The Dark Crystal is a terrifying film.
Mm-hmm.
But it was aimed at young adults.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked. And that I still think that's a good measurement. And there is a distinction between we weren't doing a kids book, we were doing an all ages book. And there's a difference.
There is,
although most people define all ages as for kids. And that just means it's safe for little kids to read it. That doesn't mean that it's all ages. Should mean what Katie was describing earlier, and what you just said is it's got something in it for everybody.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a Looney Tunes cartoon or an episode of the 60s Batman. A kid can watch it and enjoy the colors, but the parents watching it are going to get the gags in a different meaning. Mm-hmm. There's something in there for anybody to pick up, and for anybody to be hooked on.
Yeah, writing a children's comic or a children's TV show is talking down to a child. I don't believe in that. And so I'm for, the Sesame Streets and stuff like that. A great example right now is Bluey.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't watched Bluey, it's the shit.
Yeah, Bluey's pretty great.
Bluey
the
is
new
Bluey
7-minute
is great.
cartoon.
My 13-year-old still loves Bluey.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I love Bluey.
It is of what I've watched of it. It's a little more kid aimed, but there are still things in there that the adults
there's always a joke in there that's for me. That one is for me.
Now you were saying earlier, writing down to kids is not great, and I 100% agree with you. Somebody described a long time ago the difference between, and this is an overgeneralization, but the difference between books aimed at children in the UK versus books aimed at children here. Mm-hmm. And they were like, why do the books from the UK do so much better? Now, they don't talk down to the kids. They're about kids. They're written from a kid's perspective, maybe, but they don't talk down to kids. Mm-hmm. And here, everybody's like, who's a cute little punim? We can't show you anything. And it's just, you're going to get baby talk, and that's not good. Versus, The Hobbit versus The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
You say baby talk for your cat and your dog. You don't talk to your children that way.
See, I agree.
Right.
Well, you do if you're teenagers and you're trying to piss them off.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's that's Dad 101. I was, before this, I was at home shooting basketball with my 17-year-old son who's getting ready to join the military. And I was trash talking him by baby talking him the entire time. So it's kind of mandatory.
Now we've got somebody in chat says, I'm doing a speech on Bluey at my school. What kind of speech are you doing at school?
And
that sounds pretty awesome.
What grade? Like what ages?
I'm going to guess based on this artwork here that this is actually my niece. And that's her avatar. I don't know that, but I'm guessing. So if that's you, hello. And that would be what, 8th grade, I think. Some 7th, 8th grade, something like that. I don't know if you guys know or 80, but the voice actors for the 2 adult characters in Bluey are both going to be at the Huntsville Comic and Pop Culture Expo here in a couple of weeks.
Oh, fantastic!
Yeah, I really like that they don't share, because the voices of Bluey and Bingo are kids of like the animators, so they don't name them, they don't do appearances or anything like that, and I think that makes it stay a little bit more pure, that they're kids, they're not Bluey, they're not Bingo.
That's awesome. I will say we have a lot of people, and this is, y'all probably encountered this on your days of My Little Pony and such, but the Q&As from people asking about these voice actors coming to the expo, the number of people who are asking if they will be appearing as humans or as dogs is remarkable.
Mwah. Humanity.
I'm like, Are you thinking that they're going to be like a Disney character that's in the giant costume or something?
Oh my God, that'd be
what are you thinking?
Great.
Andy, these people vote.
Now I want to see the voice actor show up in like bad, Krusty Land versions of their outfits that have like a patch on them and they've got a cigarette in their hand. Hey, kid.
Oh, no, that would be funny.
Or Spaceballs stunt doubles.
Or as itchy and scratchy.
So yeah, I wonder.
I put that gag in the Pony comics. Pinkie Pie suit.
But I do wonder if years ago, when you guys were first doing My Little Pony and it blew up and everybody was getting excited about it, if people who just knew the cartoon and read the comic, but they had never been to a convention before in their lives, they didn't know what to expect. if they're like, wow, those guys are going to be at this convention. I wonder if they're going to be dressed as ponies. Like, can you imagine?
It's interesting.
The Bob's Burgers Equestricals episode is true.
That is a documentary.
There you go. Her paper or her
every
presentation
single
is
bit.
about why Bluey is not just for kids.
Okay.
There you go.
And it's interesting because
let's help her out with her schoolwork. Tell her why this is good paper.
Well, eighth grade, when I was in 8th grade in 1886,
just after the war.
Right. The War of Northern Oppression.
We switched from stone tablets to papyrus.
Right.
My mama kept down the home.
When we were done transcribing the Gettysburg Address, we would go home and watch our cartoons. But no, in the 8th grade, when I was growing up, that was the kind of age like you couldn't admit that you were watching cartoons.
No.
Even though at that time we had, all the ones that are giant now were just starting. Transformers, G.I. Joe,
Voltron,
the
Thundercats.
Thundercats. Man, yep. I didn't miss Thundercats.
That's a golden age of animation and toy tie-ins. So
it is, and
it was brilliant.
It is. It's it kind of really concreted what we're into now, because now, right. Now a cartoon is rarely made without the idea of merchandising behind it.
Merchandising.
Yeah.
See, I guess I was just a different type of child, because my friends would be like, after school, it would be, hey, we need to go do this, 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 and this. And I'd be like, no, I've got a G.I. Joe, Voltron, and Thundercats. Catch me in an hour and a half. I'll see y'all later.
Right. There was a block, and your afternoon was cordoned off. Like, no, I can't go bike riding. I can't do this. I got to find out what's going on with Lion-O and those damn robot teddy bears.
Mm-hmm.
See, we've been discussing at the shop lately, and maybe you guys can identify this. All the characters that you hated in those cartoons, right? Scrappy-Doo, Snarf, all the ones that are supposed to be the gateway point for the little kids, so the kids can like the cartoon. I'm like, it's already a cartoon, guys. We're already going to want to watch this. Don't dumb it down for me. Don't give me these characters that I just am going to hate.
This is Juno.
They all wanted to do it.
Yeah.
There we go. A cat butt.
That's Juno.
Oh. Hi, Juno. That's the crazy one.
Yes, this is my bobblehead, my mental deficient.
She can hear you. She's right there.
I'm right here, Andy. God.
That's a good spot.
Rude. So, jumping back, so you guys turned My Little Pony, like this sow's ear, into a silk purse. It was huge. It was massive. And then you got the opportunity to do Nothing Special, right? And you got the opportunity. You also worked on quite a few Disney projects.
Yeah.
How'd you score that gig, and what kind of things were you doing at Disney? Because you got some big Disney nuts over here.
Nice.
I would like to see you take on a Haunted Mansion product, please.
Well, I know Andy doesn't want to do that, so I'll find.
I know he hates Haunted Mansion. He would never want to do that.
Never. But oh, I forgot the question already.
What Disney projects did you work
on?
Yeah,
the question was do you eat chili with beans or without beans?
With beans.
That actually is a good question.
You know what? Good answer, Katie. Good answer.
Mm-hmm. And a hot dog is a sandwich.
It is a sandwich. Yes, it is. It is a sandwich.
A Pop-Tart is a ravioli.
But based on that argument, so is a toaster strudel.
That's an expensive ravioli.
No, No,
There you go.
no, it's not, because a Pop-Tart is a ravioli because the dough is put down, the filling is put in the middle, another piece of dough is put down, and the edges are crimped
Pinched.
like a ravioli. A toaster strudel is an envelope with the filling in it. You bite into one end, the filling will come out the other. So it's not a ravioli. It's a toaster strudel is closer to a burrito.
It's
I mean, I can see your argument, but I don't know if I could really say it's closer to a burrito. We may just have to agree to disagree.
A cheap burrito, because like one of those beef Mexi melts that Taco Bell used to have, where they didn't wrap up the ends and you would bite one end and all the content squirt out the other one.
Okay, Lisa's right. Maybe a toaster strudel is a calzone.
No, a toaster strudel is a Wellington
or a panini.
It's
all right, we're gonna get fancy, but that is closer to the fact. That's closer, yes. It is a Wellington.
And the frosting on top is your demi-glaze.
Our 8th grader says if a Pop-Tart is a ravioli, then cereal is soup.
Cereal is totally soup. As long as you add the milk.
I can't argue against that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to agree with that one.
Yeah.
It's a little vichyssoise. It's a cold soup.
And today,
the other day, who eats cereal with water instead of milk.
That person is a fucking pod person.
Well,
that's not right.
Take care of that shit.
That's the kind of person that in 10 years is going to be the subject of a forensic files.
I agree. That's not right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not even for money would I eat corn pops with water instead of milk.
It's just horrifying.
That's nasty, baby.
See?
Yeah, their after school special is going to start like this. They were the perfect family until they weren't. That's exactly how theirs is going to start.
No, then it's going to do an overly dramatic shot of him opening a Dasani bottle and then a little tiny miniature cereal box, like the ones you take on vacation with you.
Yeah,
and he's going to open the box and pour the water in while he's like dead stare to the family. Look at me. Don't look at this. Look at me. No respect. Dead.
Is it Dasani or is it Avian?
Now, actually, Katie, I think you'll appreciate this. I don't know if you have read Anthony Daniels. I know you're a Star Wars fan too, right? But I don't know if you've read Anthony Daniels' autobiography. But he's got this whole business in there.
I try to distance myself from him.
Fair enough. But in his biography, he talks about shooting a commercial for a Star Wars breakfast cereal. The R2-D2 and C-3POs.
Yep.
Yeah. And he said they're in the mountains out in Colorado at this like lake with a picnic area and all this because it has to look just so. And he said these poor people, they're trying to film it, and they said it's just not showing up right on camera. The cereal is not showing up right on camera, and with the milk, right? So they were like trying to find something that would show up right on camera, and they kept headbutt. So they kept using. They went and got milk of magnesia.
Oh.
And they put milk of magnesia on the cereal, and these people had to do take after take of like, yum. With milk, and they didn't realize until afterwards that it's a laxative.
I'll bet that was a fun evening.
All these poor people. Yeah.
Oh.
There was a lot of paperwork filed that evening.
Kenny Baker was never so grateful to be stuck inside that tin can.
Right. And
I can't eat it.
I'm glad I didn't have to eat it. But yeah, that was something. So I don't know how we got off on this, but you worked on a bunch of Disney projects.
We were talking about ravioli.
Because Pop-Tart is ravioli.
As one does, yes.
We'll debate this amongst ourselves at another time. But let's see. I've done some stuff for the Wonderground galleries in the Disney parks.
I love those. What have you
Which
done
therein leads to a new story.
There's a whole other thing
Yeah.
where there's some missing artwork. We're still trying to figure out some logistics here. But I've written like the
When you did
Tangled
Fraggle
comics.
Rock, that was before Disney had Henson?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, that's years old at this point.
Yeah.
I was still in the Ypsilanti house.
Yeah.
So you said you've written Tangled comics?
Yeah, Tangled. I did some stuff for the Frozen comics.
Now,
So
Tangled
just
is my
like
daughter's.
licensing, wrote stuff.
Tangled is my daughter's go-to. No matter
Oh,
how
if
old
that-
she gets, she
yeah.
always goes back to Tangled, the movie, the comics, everything.
Yeah, they were fun because basically you get to make a lot of lawn hair jokes. And actually, my favorite thing that I have basically made canon in all of the universes that I've gotten to play with and draw for and write for. I had Eugene meet the guy that makes the wanted posters where they can't get his nose right.
Nose, yeah.
So this guy is printing off all of these posters, and each one the nose isn't right. And Eugene is like, I'm not even a wanted man anymore. What are you doing? And he's like, oh, I sell these. People love them. And he's like,
I sell
well,
them at my
I'm
table
gonna...
in Artist Alley.
And he's like, well, you could at least get my nose right. And the guy goes, well, then I'd have to pay you a licensing fee.
Oh, wow.
That is great.
And Disney, no flags. Let
That's
it fly.
impressive.
It's 2 pages of the comic that I dedicated to this one joke.
I love
they
it.
also in one of the issues, they are traveling to another island. And the name of the island is Idris Elba.
See that?
And Disney
that
never
proves,
caught that?
That proves that nobody
Yeah.
is reading what we do.
That's
There's no way they would let us get away with those kind of things.
One of the Frozen ones, they wanted it to be about this Norwegian tradition. And, so they're like, can you write something that has to do with this, but still has a nice little moral for kids and whatnot? So it's like, okay. And the central focus of the pastry that is served during this holiday is like called krumkakis. So I put that word in every single panel because it's a stupid word. It sounds dirty, and I could.
That's fantastic.
It does sound dirty. It sounds like a Yiddish word for something we don't want to say on the air,
Yeah, so it's like and it's all kids talking too. So they're all like, krumkakis. It's like, I love krumkakis. Because if you're gonna make me write some Dick and Jane level bullshit, I'm going to put krumkakis. Hi. Would you like to have a cream-filled krumkakis? It's like...
My wife's family are...
if you do, please visit my OnlyFans.
My wife's family are all originally from Sweden. And they're like, well, Sweden, Swedish must be a tough language, all this stuff, right? And then you hear them speaking, and I'm like, I understood what you said. It's just like weird baby talk English with this little lilting accent. You know what Swedish is? The Swedish term for scrambled eggs is? Lysa cooked eggs.
So that's the Swedish chef is Swedish. Like, he's not even playing a role.
No.
That accent is real.
You know what their word for milk is? Milk. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
It sounds like, so Swedish is you're digging through your old stuff in your parents' basement and that Fisher Price dial-a-wheel of like the animal noises.
With the cows and the chickens and the horses. Yeah.
Just had that battery has one last good
Yes.
pull on it, and you do it, and it's like me, and that's speaking Swedish.
And
Was
that it?
Swedes come running. Did somebody say we were going to have cereal soup?
You guys are awesome. Oh,
That's
See, this entire conversation, the only thing I can think of is the guy from Frozen. Yoo-hoo, big summer blowout. That's the only thing I can think about.
oh, Lord have mercy.
It's like, hi, would you like to get into the sauna with my naked family?
That's totally a true thing in Sweden. It's like they all live right next to the ocean. They jump into the sauna. They jump into the ocean. They jump back into the sauna. It's just a thing. It's a cultural thing. That's what they do.
See, I've
It's
got
also
to go
like the
home
old,
now and go through my daughter's entire My Little Pony collection just so I can figure out what jokes y'all have thrown in there, just to sneak past.
It's everything that Andy and I do right now next to each other, but not toned to 11 for children.
Right.
Okay.
They
We
let
maxed
us
out at
write
we
books
maxed
for
out at
kids.
maybe 8 for
Yeah.
It's
If
it's
only
interesting.
they all knew.
Yeah, every once in a while we would get a note. It's like, oh, somebody actually did read the script. Because most of the times at Hasbro, we could tell nobody was reading these scripts, or if they did, it was too late. And we're about to go to press, and they would say, "Hold up, you got to change all of this. Too late, book's done." But every once in a while, you would get something. You can't say that. We just did.
Yeah, it already went to press.
Yeah.
So
It's
it went to press and it sold 125,000 copies.
Yeah.
So
it's
sorry.
like
it's weird.
like,
I'm gonna bitch for just a moment, and it's not wise because it's my paycheck, but I don't give a shit because
I know what you're gonna talk about, and
a lot of the fun has gone out. The representative that we worked with the entire time we were there, that we did our book with them, the gentleman at Hasbro that was our mediary. That's good bourbon. Mediary.
He's a mediary.
Please don't die, Andy.
Mediaria. I got kicked in the mediaria once. It hurt.
Right. That guy that helped us out.
I think that's what I broke in my foot.
He was laid off recently. Hasbro did a massive shift. They laid off a ton of people. It actually made the news on like how many people they laid off.
Oh yeah.
He was one of them. And the new crew over the comics does not have a sense of humor. And there's no joy in them anymore because they are policing every little thing. And it's taken a lot out of them. So I'm working on an issue right now, and in turning in the first 7 pages, I got more notes back than I have ever gotten on any project I have ever worked on in my 34 years of doing freelance work.
Wow.
And I made sure
what
that
kind of notes are we talking about? Like, her forehead's not that wide.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
It's not me.
This nose is a millimeter off. Things
Really?
like that.
No.
I'm not exaggerating.
So did they
I know this is cartooning, right?
Now, what really pissed me off is I found out that this was coming from my editors before they send it to Hasbro. They're like, we're worried about what the new people are going to say. I'm like, well, why don't you send it in and find out? So,
yeah, I mean, they should know that if past is prologue, then half the time Hasbro's not reading it.
Hey, Andy. Your new editors have so many red flags. I would have dated it in college.
Look at that. That's an issue right there. That's an issue right there. But no, that's just me blowing off steam for the moment. Isn't that right?
Wow, that's fantastic.
The cat is back to beat me up again.
But she was giving you some pretty serious headbutts earlier.
Oh yeah.
Well,
so
with nothing special, I had no editor. I still don't think I have one at Webtoon. They just let me do whatever. I see the contracts of these really young people that they bring on to do the featured stuff where you have to turn in like over 40 panels a week. And they're like, oh, my editor over at Webtoon told me about this, and now I'm doing this, and then I changed this. And I had to get off of this like group chat thing that they had put me on because I don't have an editor. I just upload the files to the FTP when I'm done. And that's it.
Yeah, I remember when you were in towards the end of the first book, or maybe when you just started the second one. I remember you texted me at one point like, I think I have an editor. I'm not sure.
I couldn't name him.
Yeah.
It was like I had one when I first came on, but I knew the guy at the time. He was, the editor. He was the head honcho of bringing in everyone, Tom Akel. And then he got laid off, and no one ever emailed me like, "Hey, I'm your new person."
That's right. That's what I remember you telling me. It was like, he's gone, and I don't know that there's anybody there. Didn't you?
And then I took basically a break, and then finally somebody from Webtoon went, "Are you okay?" And I went, "Oh my God, an email that works." I only knew people that had been laid off.
Wow.
All the emails I tried to send other people were bounced back.
Hey, as long as the checks were still coming, that's the important thing.
Is nothing special still going on Webtoon?
Or did you finish it? Well, it's I have to finish out season 3 because it's so long, and I took a break for basically a year to take care of myself, take care of my dad, and then the second I'm gonna go back to it in November, I basically like crippled myself, and I've been in a wheelchair
My plan
since.
Worked.
Andy made a voodoo doll and then just started like boop, 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 boop.
It was an action figure. First of all, it was an action figure. It's not a doll. Well, he's going to get it off the shelf. Look at him. He's like, it is. Look at these toes.
I just got a brand new wheelchair yesterday, Andy. Don't ruin it yet.
I was looking for my voodoo guidebook, but I must have left it in the other room.
He was referencing it already. It's fine. But
I must have left it in the other room.
So it wasn't actually me that did this to her. It was her youngest child, and I have proof.
Uh-oh.
This is from just over a year ago.
Hang on.
And
I feel like we have to
drawing. She did a
have
drawing
to
of her.
You here.
There is it. She did a drawing of her mother pooping in the living room.
Yep. That's mine. That's my child.
So cartooning runs in the family is what you're saying.
Oh, yeah.
I have more drawings from Harper than I do from Katie, I think, at this point.
I have to tell you, Andy, you'll appreciate this because you know these people. But a couple of years ago, like we do up at the shop for Halloween, we do a kids costume contest kind of thing at the shop, right? So the French kids and Mandy's kid.
That took a second. I thought you were being racist for a moment.
No. That's their last name.
Oh, no.
The David and Susie French kids. Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So they came to the shop And the oldest kid and Mandy's girl did a Gravity Falls costume where they
Perfect.
they cross played, right? So he was the girl and she was the guy, right?
Mabel
And
and
they did
Dipper.
this. Yeah, yeah. So then the second oldest French kid had to run outside to get his costume, and he comes back in. Now he made this costume by himself. Okay? He was a toilet. He had a working lid. It had a roll of toilet paper on it. And because Susie's the cool mom that she is, she had done this, what is it? Not cross stitching, it's the knitting or whatever. She had made like little Mr. Hankies.
Like crochet?
Yeah, that's it, crochet.
Okay.
But he dressed as he made a costume and he dressed as a toilet.
That is clearly Susie's influence.
I took a picture that looks a lot like the picture that Katie's kid did, because he's standing here in toilet mode and Susie's like, it was fantastic. I've got that picture on my phone. I'll email it to you because it's very funny, or I'll text it to you. It's quite funny, and you will get a kick out of it.
This is exciting. Everybody should know. I am now getting notifications on my phone when the cat uses the cat box. Isn't that great?
That is.
This tells you how much excitement I have in my life. So
why does that technology
all this
exist?
Technology and all of the things that the world could choose to do.
Yes, and I got a
and they're going to make litter boxes that alert you that your cat is taking a shit.
I was about to say
because
the same
people
thing.
like Andy Price are going to spend money on it.
With 5 cats, that's a lot of notifications.
That's why I have kids. They do it.
My
kids
last
notify you when they're on the toilet.
My last convention,
they do the
I said, if this
but
is
they
a good
also
show,
notify me when they're on the toilet. So.
I was like, if this is a good show, I'm getting a robotic cat shitter. That's what I'm doing. That's my goal in life, and I did it.
There's nothing left.
No, I've peaked. This is it.
I can see it now. Katie said, Andy, we just pre-sold 125,000 copies. And Andy said, I'm buying a robotic cat shitter.
Yep.
And left.
And then the second he's like, I can die happy, dead, we bury, we put the electronic litter box on top of the mound of dirt.
Yes.
Right. That's your tombstone now. Your epitaph is a pile of cat shit.
See,
and all of the neighborhood cats will come and pay homage.
Right. You bury me with the phone and you give me one of those headstones with the bell on it. And every time the phone tells me somebody's taking a shit, I'll ring the bell so that the whole town knows.
Hey, everybody, my cat is in the pooper.
The cat has peed. The cat is 9.6 pounds and is taking a shit. And it's probably 9.2 pounds now. So,
wow.
Well, this conversation went down quick.
On the cork scale.
Wow.
I want everybody out there to know this is the world of comics. This is how comics work. So
this is how they get made.
Yes.
Somewhere in what we've talked about, we just made a Spider-Man issue. I don't know.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Well, you know what? The current Spider-Man
series in this. You know,
the current Spider-Man run is equivalent to cat shit. So I mean, it's
no. Now I want Peter Parker absolutely distracted for 20 straight pages because someone said, "Is a Pop-Tart a ravioli?" And that's all he's thinking about. He's going. Foom, 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 foom.
He's missing all the bank robberies below.
Yeah, there is. You know, when a volley comes from one of his many cast of villains, he's not even going to acknowledge it. He's just like, I mean, I had a Pop-Tart, but sweet and savory? Like, is cinnamon savory or is it sweet? And then flip, flip, do the train thing. I guess I could get my phone out and look at what the definition of a ravioli is. Wikipedia is going to solve this for me. Flum, flum, flum.
And
it just says a pastry with filling. It just says dough with filling. This isn't helpful, Wikipedia.
This isn't solved. It leads to the next summer event, which is the next Civil War. Is a hot dog a sandwich or a taco? And that divides the whole Marvel.
And it divides the nation.
Yes.
I could see this
Iron
whole thing
Man
being an
starts
issue where
drinking
Peter
again.
Parker. See, I could see that whole thing being an issue where Peter Parker sits down at the table with Aunt May and just has his heart-to-heart with her the whole time about all of these things. And the vile atrocity that is...
Which Aunt May? Modern
water
hot
on
Aunt May
cereal.
or classic bony hair bun Aunt May?
You mean great-great-great-grandmother Aunt May?
Yes. I don't know what happened in 60s family lineage that all aunts were automatically 90-year-old spinsters to 18-year-old boys. But that was the case.
It was.
Aunt May, Aunt Harriet,
bizarre.
Yeah.
So, Katie, if somebody were to approach you, and I mean this dead serious, if somebody were to approach you and say, you know what, Spider-Man is terrible. Would you write Spider-Man and make it good again, please? What would you do?
There's your answer right there. You get look at that face.
you guys already heard it.
Because
you have to understand, I have been given the opportunity to work on so many characters that I have no business working on. I was in the Thanos anthology, and my story is cute, chibi style Thanos cruising around the universe in his little chair, looking for the heart of the universe. That whole thing. And he ends up going to a planet that is nothing but these adorable little bunny-esque creatures, big bug eyes, big ears, cute smiles, and they are the most innocent things ever, and they've never seen anything like Thanos. And, he's like, hi, I'm Thanos. And they're like, oh my God, it must be a god! Yay, new god! And then, there's a whole series thing of like him being really annoyed. But then he's like, I just want the heart. And they're like, I have a heart. And then they break open their bodies because they're stuffed toys, and they start pulling stuffing out of themselves and like sacrificing their own children and relatives to new god. And then finally they say, we have the heart, and it's a little plush heart that squeaks.
It's a dog toy.
Yeah. And he is just like, I gotta get out of here. Like, Thanos was even like, as the stuffing piles up around them, and you hear things like, mass graves are like a slumber party. And then he takes back off into space, and he's just squeaking this toy. And he's like, yeah, let's not talk about this one. And
this one shall not go into the annals.
They let me do a Spider-Verse story, with the whole Dan Slott thing that I wrote and I drew, and I made Spider-Man into an 11-year-old girl who basically.
Oh my God, I'd forgotten all about that. Penelope Parker, right?
Penelope Parker. And at first she basically thinks that, the spider powers are like puberty, but then they're on a field trip, so she starts like sticking to things and all this other stuff. And at one point she's got to save somebody from a generic corporate sculpture that they crawled on top of, so they put the bag on the head, type of thing. And then at the very end, the costume that she makes is a red spider luchador mask, a blue t-shirt that she has sharpied a spider onto, a big puffy tutu, and striped leggings and red Converse. And she had a big fluffy ponytail, which I promptly loved drawing and stole for nothing special. And then I also got to do the Avengers stuff at IDW. And one of the stories, out of the 3 issues that all tied together, is not like the Precious Moments one, which is its own insane thing. But I did Captain America, and I paired him with Squirrel Girl, and they go do the safety town talk for the kindergartners at one of the elementary schools. And then you find out that Paste Pot Pete, who is now like 70 some years old, he looks like the original Paste Pot Pete, is a teacher at this school.
Oh, good Lord.
And he's Mr. Petruski, because that's his name. And when he sees Captain America is there, he's like, everyone that laughed at me, I'll get my chance. And he, goes into the craft closet in the art room and is, pulling on the old outfit, like trying to fit in it. And the glue guns on his hands, all they have is glitter glue from, the kindergarten classes. And he's like, I'll show asbestos lady, I'll go visit her at the home this weekend. I'll show her that I can still take on Captain America. And he goes out into the safety town thing with all the kindergartners, and Squirrel Girl assumes he's an actor to help the kids safely run away from a villain attack. So he's sitting there like shooting glitter glue, and kids love it because, they're like stuck to the sides of building in glitter, and it's like tee. Where Squirrel Girl is like, LARPers, yay! Come on, kids. You 2 are dead. Let's go to the next stop. And Captain America is the only one that like keys in that is like, Pete? And it's all about, he finally gets the shield away from Captain America as Captain America is like, protecting the kids. And he gets the shield, and all he's trying to do is take a selfie with it. And all of the kids are like trying to tell him, from a distance of like how to take a selfie.
Right.
So he can have a picture of him, with that he won.
Get your chins up. Minimize the chins.
Yep. And yeah, it was so cute and funny. And I also, like I said, I had Thor was at a flea market trying to replace a tchotchke that he broke off of Black Widow's desk, and Loki makes all the Precious Moments figures come to life, and like they're 3 stories tall.
Horrifying.
And that's what I do.
I have an aunt who has all those Precious Moments figures. Oh.
I just
that would be
finally
horrific.
got a note that was like, no. I got my first big no.
A porcelain naked chubby kaiju.
Yeah.
That's what that would be.
With those big baby eyes.
With the big baby eyes, yeah.
Okay, so I have to ask, what are both of y'all drawing? Because Katie, you'll draw something every once in a while, and you just started, so I'm kind of curious now.
Are you working, Katie, or are you just scribbling?
I'm kind of doodling. I'm trying to make some stuff. So I am.
Well, Alan, is this time for you to make your request?
I am. I'm actually. I've got a convention at the end of the month that my portfolio has just been ravaged. I'm trying to do some sketches to fill in some dead spaces. I should be working, but I've been doing more digital lately to save my eyes, and the camera is my workspace. It's my iPad, so I can't draw in it while I'm doing this. So
that might look awkward.
Yeah, that might look
What are you doing? I don't.
Yeah.
Stop doing that.
Yeah, I'm just working on. I posted a little clip of it to Facebook, but some new like prints and stuff to try and do like nothing special as kind of my newer persona at cons, because most people know me from all my licensed stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like I want some prints that you can't, they're not just the covers of the books. It's like, the fan servicey stuff.
Yeah. And
so that's what I'm working on.
I got to tell you guys, I mean, you might be fairly new to the Nothing Special book, but watching the people come up to her table at shows that have known this from Webtoon from what, the past 7 years? 7 years now. There are people that come up to the table and they just gush. Meeting Katie is like, that was why they came to the show. I love Radish. I love Lasser. I love, and they start asking her, what are you going to do in the next issue? What are you going to do with this character? What are you going to do with this? And it's great to see these fans come up with such love for these characters.
Yeah. We have several Radish tattoos that I've seen, which is just adorable and bonkers. And, I've seen cosplayers over the past few years, and just,
nothing was better than the kid that
can't.
cosplayed as Katie, though.
Oh, yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah.
There was a kid who cosplayed as you?
As Katie.
Yeah. And that young lady just is about to finish their first year of art school for college.
God.
Oh, how awesome is that?
So it's one of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten at a con, because, Andy and I get lots of drawings from kids. I've gotten little sculptures or just like nice letters.
I get bourbon.
But yes, Andy gets alcohol.
Yeah.
But
they call it seasoning.
But yeah, it's she brought a comic that she had made, like a My Little Pony comic that she wrote and drew, and it was in color, and it was about my pony moving to Ponyville and meeting all of the main ponies. And it's so sweet, and it's just so lovely. And then the last page is, I started reading comics because of the My Little Pony comics. And, I really love your stories. And now I want to make stories, and I want to be just like you when I grow up.
Man, how do you even react to that? That's
you
awesome.
cry. You cry.
Yeah,
a lot.
that now, if you were to get us together in a room without the cameras and everything, to get a group of comic book people together, we're going to bitch, we're going to moan about deadlines, about editors, about the behind the scenes politics. But in the end of it, the best thing that can ever come out of comic books is those kind of stories.
Oh,
yeah.
And that makes it all worthwhile. All the politics, all the editor's notes, any note that comes back, this nose is a millimeter too long. All of that is washed away by a kid that comes up and says, I learned to read on your comic books. Or a retailer that, a retailer that comes up and says, I have kids coming into my store and I never did before.
Yeah.
And
one of our first times after about a year of the book being out, when things just really were crazy.
When people realized that this was some hot stuff and that they should pay attention to it.
Yeah, and we were just really starting to get these kind of reactions. We were at one of our last appearances at Wizard World Chicago before it truly turned into a wrestling show, just a complete garbage crap fest. we were at the show.
How do you really feel, Andy?
A kid came to our table with this comic and went, and this comic looked like it had been through World War II.
Yep.
It was stapled together, it was taped together, and the parents said she sleeps with it.
Oh my goodness.
Oh,
And
wow.
she wanted us to sign it. And that's
what you want to see.
the
I don't
kind of
wanna
thing.
That's
see
everything you want to
pristine.
see.
Yeah.
Not some
Yeah.
9.8 sealed away, but something that
Right.
it is
I
read
mean,
to death.
The people that come up to me and they have a box of comics, and do I just sign these to eBay or do I sign them to CGC? Which do you want? Those are the kind of people you charge.
Yeah.
When a kid comes up and they pull a comic book out of their back pocket and it has clearly been read a dozen times, that's the family you like. You come to dinner with us. You're the kind of people we do this for. So
Yeah, I had Chris Claremont sign the very first comic book I ever read. The copy of the very first comic book I ever read, which was X-Men 133, Wolverine Alone Against the Hellfire Club. Everybody who watches this on any kind of regular basis has heard this story a million times. I got a whole bunch of comic books at a yard sale for $1. They were in one of those old brown grocery sacks from like Food World or something, right?
From the Piggly Wiggly.
The pig, from the pig.
We bought our comics at the Big B back then.
We have
Poor Katie does not know the ways of the South.
I do not.
She doesn't know the pig.
Now I know they have the pig up in Wisconsin.
It is. I don't Wisconsin.
She does.
I'm not
she
one
does
of those.
I know, but that's not
She
too
does
far
know the
away
big
from you.
boy,
That's a lot
so.
closer to you than it is to us.
Yeah.
But
If you
yeah.
mention Minnesota, I'm just leaving.
Oh well, no, we're not talking about that. But I hear stories as a retailer. I hear stories all the time from 70 and 80-year-old guys who are like, "Yeah, I used to have that book and that book and that book, and I went to college and my mom sold all my comics." Or I got married and my wife said, "You're not bringing that stuff into my house," and so my mom sold all my comics. And I'm sure that's how I got this bag of comics for $1 at a yard sale. Looking back on it, was exactly that scenario.
Yeah.
But there were all kind of things in there. It was such a hodgepodge. I mean, there was X-Men, there was Spider-Man, a lot of Marvel tales were in there, Marvel team-ups, Ghost Rider, Batman, Tarzan, old Joe Kubert Batman,
Oh God, yeah.
Tarzan, all kinds of stuff was in there.
No, wait, bring it back. You had an art project. We got to see that stuff.
Oh, well, we'll get to that.
No, your daughter was like behind you, and she had like some art project thing.
Oh,
If that's a giant size picture of you on a toilet, I need to see that for sure.
that is museum worthy.
There's my girl. There's Harper the Goblin. Hello, you horrible bean.
They
She does
made
not look
a
like
home.
a goblin at all.
They
No.
made a home
Trust me,
for
that's
the
a goblin.
cat's squirrel toy.
Wait a minute. Which
Awesome.
cat? Zero?
That is Zero's.
Say hello, Harper.
Well
Nope.
done.
No,
Congratulations.
the second she realized Andy was there, I was like, no.
No,
Oh crap.
Harper is like Harper is like my curse.
Kid won't grow up to have issues.
You will
at
be
all.
visited by 3 ghosts tonight.
And they're all Harper. We were setting up at a show. We were at Portland Comic Con, Rose City Comic Con.
Mm-hmm.
We're setting up, and Harper sits and watches me. She just looks. You know. And I'm working, and you can't help but feel this gaze crawl upon you, like a cockroach. And she finally, after about 10 minutes of just staring, she goes, Andy, and finally turn it. What is it? I will never be as old as you are. Why are you so old? And she asks this with all honesty.
All
With all
sincerity.
honesty.
Not childhood innocence.
No, not childhood
Honesty.
innocence. You can see in her eyes. She's like, I'm just starting.
She's done the calculations and she knows.
It is all 5 members of Queer Eye for the Straight Guy in one 10-year-old package staring at Andy.
That's hysterical.
What was it in?
It's like
have
you
been
look
weighed,
like
you
a
have been measured,
prospector with
you
that
have been
beard.
found wanting,
Yeah.
sir.
Was it
Like,
I think
where
it was,
are you gonna go panning for gold, Hoop?
Was
Minor
it December?
29er.
Was it December when I was up there?
Yep.
She looked at me and at one point she went, "You'll die before me."
Now, see, my niece who was watching this earlier.
It's a good bet.
It's true. That's a good bet. But my niece who was watching this earlier, she's got a dark sense of humor, this kid, right? The darker the joke, the better. So this is, she asked me, she says, because we live in a NASA town, right? It's we got Marshall Space Flight Center, all this stuff. She goes, how do stars die? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm expecting some kind of answer about fission and explosion and stuff like that. And she goes, mostly an overdose.
Yeah. That's what I said. It's cocaine.
I was like, ouch, man. Golly.
That's
her kind of
beautiful
joke right there.
No, that's beautiful. That's gold.
Yeah.
You could go into the like, well, it depends on what kind of star. You know, you got your musicians. That's usually a cocktail of things. You got your actresses. There's gonna be Zoloft.
No,
don't
she's
get Ambien.
You know,
it's
funny.
executives. You're getting the cocaine.
Now,
dark humor
she thinks this is funny.
Like, you know, Mom, what is dark humor? You know, you see that man over there with no arms? Tell him to clap. You see that man over there with no arms? But Mom, I'm blind. There you go. That's dark humor.
Ouch. Now, see, what you were talking about with the musicians and stuff, I don't know if my niece will have heard this story or not, but my mother, so her grandmother, literally every time growing up that the Carpenters came on the radio and she heard Karen Carpenter's voice, literally every time, she starved herself to death, you know.
Well, you know,
Every time.
if Janis Joplin, not Janis Joplin, if Mama Cass had shared that ham sandwich with Karen Carpenter, they'd both be alive today.
Yeah, either which way, the difference between Karen Carpenter and Mama Cass is a ham sandwich.
That's right.
Yep.
But okay, to kind of rein this back in just a little bit.
Good luck.
That's not
good
possible.
luck. But you're going to appreciate this question, Josh, and it is a spoiler alert for anybody that may not have read Nothing Special. In the book, you'll make movie references, and another character will, like, you know, say where it come from. Sometimes even comic book references. There's a lot of references for Lord of the Rings. And then you get to a particular point in the book, and this was like one of the biggest questions I wanted to ask you tonight, where I believe it's Callie makes a comment about heading to Rivendell.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lesser says, wait a minute, if we're going to Rivendell, we're going in the wrong direction. It's over there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they both kind of freak out, and then they kind of have that exchange. So is that world, Tolkien's world, just a long time into the future? Because he does make a comment about it was many years ago.
Well, you're going to have to look at the print version where they made me change that a little bit.
No, see, that made it so cool.
I know. That's, you know, it's one of the things. There's so much about, you know, very little of the story changed. It was something like that line. They're like, maybe if we put out those books, but we're the Penguin, and those are put out by not the Penguin.
Yeah.
But
every once in a while you come across something
you know,
like that where they're like, that's the competitor. You're referencing the competitor. We don't do that. You can't do that. You know, that's
yeah,
the downside
there's
of it.
Did they
that
never
was
see
really the
Miracle on
only
34th Street? I mean, come on, people.
So, but it's a little different, but I mean, they still use that as, you know, it shows kind of a form of their friendship, of what they already have in common, of, you know, this love of, you know, books and especially movies, which are something that I like the idea that the magical world, if you are raised there, they're like, all right. But then you get people that are a mix and they know the magical world and the real world. And, you know, I like the idea of like fairies sitting around a table in this beautiful magical hall going, did you see what happened on Real Housewives last night? It's like, yeah, I went over to Penny's and we watched it. You know, that, you know, so there is a bunch of stuff like that in there. And, you know, I think they were more concentrated. They wanted to stay my world and not reference that one in that particular moment, because then it makes it part of mine. So yeah, I think that's the best way I can answer that question.
Okay, well, I mean, it makes sense. My next standard question that I ask all creators, and since I have two creators on here, I'm gonna ask both y'all.
Where's the other one?
Well, hang on, let me go get the cat again.
Josh, we have got to have.
You'll know if she's created anything. You get an alert.
Yeah, we have got to have her back more often. And believe it or not, what I'm about to ask y'all has worked. We're just waiting on this stuff to come out. It is coming.
This is true. This is funny.
Katie, if you could sneak Josh and I in there somewhere as little bitty round fat spirits, that would be great.
Okay.
Wait a minute. Hold up. If you're not just a spirit, first off, you have to identify yourself as a root vegetable. You can't just be a round spirit.
I'm clearly a potato. I mean, I think there's not even a question there. I'm an enormous
how about this?
Potato.
Josh can be a potato, and I can be the baby potato. You know, like
Andy can tell you this about me, because you can't tell because I look like a normal person sitting here, but I look close to a normal person. I'm enormous.
He's a yam. He is a yam.
I could be a yam. That's true. I could be a yam. My personality is more like a yam.
A true yam, not a sweet potato. A yam.
Or we could be trees.
Nick says you are clearly a sweet potato.
Yeah, he's a sweet potato. Now, Andy,
this is one of the best
project.
You know, when you go to a job interview and they're like, what kind of tree would you be if you were a tree? I was like, I don't know, but if I were a root vegetable, I would be a sweet potato. You know,
I would be served with toasted marshmallows on top of me. So.
Darn right.
See, my creation makes you think, what plant am I? Not unlike picking your Patronus in Harry Potter.
I like that other people are telling me what kind of plant I am.
So, Katie, a radish is off the table. What root vegetable are you?
Oh, this is good. Alan is a horseradish. Says Nick.
Hey, and Nick, I taste wonderful on prime rib.
Does it take all radishes off the table? Because there's daikon radishes, or a normal radish, which is what radish is.
Now, see, you're gonna
the daikons
you're
are
gonna
the ones that can grow to like look like they have a butt.
You're gonna try to make the argument that you're one of those fancy radishes that Gordon Ramsay puts on a plate.
Mm.
All right.
No. Okay, so yeah, any vegetable. Spaghetti squash.
Not just root vegetable. No. Any vegetable.
Spaghetti squash. Because it looks like it could be a melon from the outside, which you think is like sweet melon. and then you cut it open and you're like, this is a fucking hot mess.
And there
what
is
am I
Katie's,
supposed to do with this?
That's a
there is
flying
Katie's
spaghetti monster
Luke,
egg.
there is
And
Katie's
then some
Luke
people
Cage
try and
one
like
shot.
replace real spaghetti with it, saying it's healthy, and you're like, this is horseshit.
Yeah, that sums up Katie, all right.
Those are flying spaghetti monster eggs, Katie.
Yep. So I would be a spaghetti squash.
She also right there just wrote her Luke Cage one shot with sweet melon.
Well, okay, so we don't have to be fruit. I mean, we could be like trees. I mean,
Yeah, you can be a plant.
whatever you think would fit for Josh and I. If you could just sneak us into one panel somewhere, we would be.
But
happy.
Alan, you just limited yourself, because if you're a tree, you can't move, because if you move, you're more Tolkien, and they already told her you can't do the Tolkien.
Okay, did you
No,
not read
there's
the
a
first
tree
book?
spirit.
One of her trees did a lot more than move.
Well, that's true.
He's the ghost of the tree, and he likes to watch Declan pee. I don't know what's going on here.
That's because people pee
You
on
do
trees
see
all the
him
time.
creeping on him in the future books too. He follows him around. He
Well,
actually
yeah,
has a line.
Honestly, that whole tree situation, the spirit of the tree in the first book,
Yeah.
that was kind of sad if you think about it.
It is sad.
It was very sad.
And I like to approach, because there is in book 2 you actually see a flashback right before, like 2 weeks before graduation. Declan's grandmother dies, and I tell that in a flashback of, Callie and Callie's dad, who is Tom, just meeting him at the house. They all look really stressed out. They're in their pajamas, and it's just Tom going like, you sit here, I'm gonna take care of this. And then all you see is a gurney come by, and someone saying, hey, can we please get through? And then it cuts to the funeral, where we don't see the actual funeral. It's in the background as this very somber moment, but the main action of that chapter is that Lasser comes to the funeral, and they are trying to hide him in this chase through the funeral home, through the basement where they're having the potluck, trying to get him to stop. And at one point, he even sees a picture of Declan's grandfather, who died a while back, and shoves this 8x10 glossy into the hoodie and is walking around trying to fit in. And people are like, Walter, which is my grandfather's name. And, they're all like, what are you doing? And finally, like, Declan has this breakdown saying, why would you do this to me today? This is like one of the worst days of my life. And Lasser, having been trying to really befriend them through the book, you see why they had a change of attitude towards him in the panels that we didn't see before. Because Lasser says, you said that being a friend is about supporting people and being there for them, and you're my best friend, so I needed to be here. Am I doing it wrong? And that is a heartbreaking moment in Lasser's, thing, because he thinks he came to cherish these people that are now part of his life. And, he is doing a really shit job of it, but they have to, look at it from his point of view for a second. And then the end of it is, a big hug, and it's like, thank you for coming, which was what Declan was doing the whole time. In the beginning of the funeral, it's the thank you for coming. Thank you for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. And then the very end of it, he's eating the little potluck ham sandwiches, and he still has the picture, in his hoodie. And, people are calling him Walter, as, people are patting Declan, and they're like, do you want to come stay with us, until graduation, and you figure out what you're going to do? And, he's like, no, I'm going to be okay. Because he looks over at Callie's dad, Callie, and Lasser. And Radish, who is carrying around a bowl of potato salad for the entire thing, trying to free them. And that's the thing that I like to do is I approach topics that are hard, but there's also humor in those situations. And you can still learn the lesson, and things can be very harsh, but you can tell it in such a way that that layer of grief or that layer of, I don't want to turn this comic all the way down, but I got to explain why some people are the way they are, so you turn that humor up. Not unlike the Mary Tyler Moore episode with Chuckles the Clown,
A little song, a little dance, a little seltzer down your pants.
And I think that it is so important, especially with something that's going to also have a children's audience, to see that, this kind of funny thing is happening, but it's also really sad, but I'm not focusing on that. But now I know why all through this book, the second book, Declan and Lasser have been like bro dudes, and it's like, why are they at that point now? After book one, they couldn't stand each other, so what is, what are the bonds that brought them together? So I think that's, it's a whole thing. I don't know.
Well, you talked about
Again,
layered
onions.
storytelling earlier, right? And just different. And I think in that initial context, you were talking about layers of audience level, right? Adults and kids and everybody in between. And here you're talking about emotional layers and telling stories with depths that goes in different directions even. And that's really cool. And that, I don't know, I think Walt Disney had a similar concept when he first started doing these things. He didn't want it to just be nothing but saccharine happiness, because he didn't think the humor didn't mean as much if there weren't serious moments of tears. And so you had to have all of it, and it worked really, really well. And so when you talk about those kind of things, it sounds like you share a similar philosophy.
I do. Again, like Maurice Sendak, who wrote and drew Where the Wild Things Are, the book.
Yeah.
He is kind of like a personification of, he always believed that kids could handle more than we give them credit for.
100% agree.
Yeah. And that's a lot of where that book comes from for him, is that children have like this inner beast, an inner roar, and there's a darkness to childhood. And I hate media that tries to wash away the fact that kids have feelings and kids are smart and kids can follow, a story plot. An example that I've used, that thing. There was a show on Nickelodeon, and they had a bunch of like straight to Netflix movies called La La Loopsy. Toys were adorable. The content outside of the toy line, bullshit. Like they have like a 40-minute special of these characters, and of course the circus one is, got a big tarp over what is obviously a Ferris wheel, and it starts with, I'm going to give the all of the La La Loopsies a surprise, but they're already there, like they're fucking lined up, and it's like, come back later for the big reveal, and they're all like, cool, I didn't just walk out to a field for nothing. And then as they're like walking back to their collection of houses, they all start going, where's Pillow? And it's Pillow. Like, I don't know where Pillow is. Oh, where's Pillow? And then each of them in their theme would go look for Pillow, who is known to be a fucking narcoleptic. She falls asleep anywhere.
Hence the name Pillow.
Yep. And so like the snow one goes snowboarding, followed by their little pet going, where's Pillow? Pillow! No avalanche, no conflict there. Okay. The baking one, I'm gonna bake Pillow's favorite cookies. And then Pillow will come a-running. Where's Pillow? This is meant for like elementary school students, like 4th graders and 3rd graders, not baby toddler. I still shit my pants. And then it
Did you
shows
call me?
another one of them.
I was gonna say, in all fairness, Andy does. So
That's Andy's pony name.
He's doing that now.
But all of a
Everybody's
sudden,
got to
you
have
know,
a hobby, Alan.
yeah, they go through like 8 of these characters, and of course the circus one is like, if they don't find Pillow, my night is ruined. And then it finally cuts to Pillow, who is 3 feet away in the field, like, okay, cool. But then all of them gather, you know, and they don't see Pillow yet. And okay, they're all there. I guess Pillow can't come to the great reveal, but I'm gonna reveal it anyway. Tarp off, big bright Ferris wheel. And they're all like, ooh. And then Pillow comes in rubbing their eyes, and it was like, what did I miss? Wow, a Ferris wheel. Who wants to ride it with me? And they're all like, oh, Pillow.
I already want to punch someone in the face over this.
First, you spent all day looking for your friend, and you just revealed the Ferris wheel anyway? We're not going to put a time delay on this?
Well, they only had the tarp rented
Second,
until 7.
who goes snowboarding saying, I bet she climbed a mountain. She went uphill in the snow. Surely. Okay. 3, I guess I'll bake some cookies, which you didn't even goddamn bring to the reveal party.
Rude.
Now I want
And
cookies.
4,
Oh, I have
you
cookies.
all know she's a narcoleptic. You didn't just step back into the field and see a crop circle and go, there she is. Lessons were not learned from previous episodes where they can't find Pillow.
They should put a bell on
And
that
this
kid's
was
neck.
a 40-minute special instead of 17 minutes of hell on Nickelodeon.
Hang on, what kind of cookies you got there? I thought yep, that's what I thought.
Mine are in the freezer.
Some of those,
That's the
my
best place to
daughter,
put
she
Thin
tried
Mints.
watching some of that stuff, like the La La Loopsy when she was younger, and some of it was just so bad that even at that age where you think the child would like it, they're just like, no, I'd rather no. Keep going, flip, change channel.
Yep.
Kids
No,
know
like,
when it's BS. They know when it's pointless and dumb, and they don't like it any more than anybody else.
Mm-hmm. And especially after a certain age, like I said, you can't talk down to kids through their entertainment. Look at what the best kids' TV is. Gravity Falls, I think is a masterpiece. The Into the Spider-Verse, the Spider-Verse movies. People are like, "Ooh, it's animated though," and it's like, but I'll kill you with a hammer. It's the first Spider-Verse movie is my favorite Spider-Verse movie.
It's fantastic.
Just
Into
like
the
Lego
Spider-Verse
Batman is the best Batman movie.
Into the Spider-Verse is one of the top comic book films that we've gotten in the past decade. Mm-hmm. Into the Spider-Verse and Teen Titans Go to the Movies are like the
Teen
top.
Titans Go to the Movies is the most endearing of the superhero movies to me, because even after they realize they are kicking the shit out of Shia LaBeouf, they continue doing it.
Yes.
Because he deserves
Wouldn't you?
It. Yes.
Teen Titans Go to the Movies is the DC movie equivalent of what we did with ponies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what I mean is all the talk that we did earlier of all the gags that we did that clearly nobody was paying attention to and we got away with. That's
Oh,
Teen
yeah.
Titans Go to the Movies.
Yep.
Clearly, nobody was paying attention because they rip apart DC films deservedly.
When they are trying to fix history and they lovingly drape pearls on Batman's mom's neck and give him movie tickets and shove him down an alley. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
That is fantastic.
All right, so I got my request in to Katie. Now, Andy, it's your turn, and then I'm completely done. I'm out of shit to talk for the night. Next thing that you're working on, if you can sneak Josh and I in it as grim grinning ghosts, that would be phenomenal.
Well, the current thing I'm working on is a cryptids project. So I can make you both Bigfoot or
I'm already
or
halfway there.
That's not too far of a stretch for Josh.
I mean, Katie, I'm 6'6"
Hey,
and 400 pounds. I'm enormous.
Hey, Andy, can you put me in as a new cryptid? I'm gonna be the Detroit Hot Wheels.
There you go. Because
The
I've
flames
had
on my
just
wheelchair make it faster.
yeah, I've had just enough bourbon. Are we going to New York or no?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
Random
Okay.
House thinks I'm gonna die if I go to New York.
Okay.
That seems like an
I was
odd
gonna
thing
go
for
to
them to think.
Mocha and give a talk, and then Random House saw me at Emerald City last weekend. They're like, "Oh, you're in a wheelchair," and I was like, "Yeah, it's pretty new, but." And then they were like, "You're gonna die in New York, and we need another book out of you." It's like, okay.
Thanks for your concern.
That's editors.
But then they're like, "But you still have to do San Diego," and I was like, "Oh, I thought I was done with it."
That
Better get a motorized scooter for San Diego.
Oh no! By then I'm gonna have my bionic legs.
Oh, that's right.
They're called CAFOs. They're big braces that come up to mid-thigh, and they're going to allow me to get up and walk with those polio crutches.
Hey,
which
I had
used
one of those
today at
after I got
PT.
hit by a car. I got hit by a car when I was 12 years old. We lived in England. They drive on the wrong side of the road. I was racing my brother home from school. He beat me by a month because that's how long I was in the hospital. But case in point, Andy, they show up to pick me up in the ambulance, and they drive me to the hospital. And when they get there, the doctor starts yelling at the ambulance driver and saying, "I thought you said you were bringing in a 12-year-old boy." And my mom's like, "He is 12." Because I was enormous.
We got to get y'all to hospital one year.
I just had I fell and I could not get up, and we called an ambulance, and it was just like, "Oh, we got to load the little old lady into the little wheelchair where we strap her in like a car seat, and then dump them onto a table and take them somewhere." And then I was in the hospital for 25 days.
This is when the ambulance came to pick up Katie. That's what they saw.
Yeah. It's really accurate.
So guys, you fail?
Tell me I'm wrong.
I apparently had a B12 deficiency and some other medical stuff going on that was causing a lot of like neuropathy type symptoms. And then I fell and broke the one foot. And then when I was going, like hobbling my way to my car to drive myself to emergency, I fell and broke the other foot. Ow. And the bones are now healed. It's just the nerve damage from basically the feet and the calves. I can't. I can try, but I can't support the weight right now, and things like that. But I mean, Andy has seen me. I look like I am dying there.
Yeah, pale. Return time.
Yeah.
Is that something that'll like return in time with therapy? Or
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Physical therapy, I am miles ahead where I'm supposed to be. Like I said, I can walk with the KFO braces.
You are
And a
streets
little
ahead.
bit of support.
You are
But
streets
yeah,
ahead.
But
but
yes,
yeah,
I
it's
had the
I
polio
lost
crutches
all this
for
weight
like
and
months.
just yep. But now I have a wheelchair that is custom made for me thanks to my husband's golden insurance for the university and it being a teaching hospital. As long as
Nice.
I'm willing to let like 14 residents like poke me with the reflex thingy and go like, wow, your knees don't work. They give me
I'd have been
whatever I
like,
want.
well, damn, they worked yesterday, just to see their reaction.
They pretty much, that was it. It was like, I walked yesterday. I'm not walking now. I think that's an issue.
I'm curious. Do we still have any viewers?
A few, yeah.
Really?
We still have a few.
Good God.
We get a lot of our viewers watch on Saturdays, Fridays and Saturdays. While they should be working on Fridays, they're watching this, and then on Saturdays we've got some guys that watch.
Honestly,
so we do still have a few hanging on.
Honestly,
why?
The only reason why we do this show live is because we just like doing it live. The vast majority of our views come a couple of days later.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Andy, they want live. Make the cat do a nip slip or something.
She's biting me.
In all fairness, you were goading her.
Well, that's what we do.
That's your relationship?
Yes, that is her expression of love. Kisses. Give kisses.
See, Andy, I'm like a cat. That's how I express my my fondness. Is by insulting.
Yes.
See, that's a biting insult is definitely a sign of affection.
Or a biting insult.
The person you're insulting, yeah.
If that's true, then the world loves me.
Well,
time to go update Andy's Wikipedia page with more lies.
He deserves it.
Well, I mean, anybody can update it, so you can add all the lies you want to it, Katie.
Okay,
that's true.
Andy Price is into urine therapy.
I was just about to say you cannot use the same things that you use on David Peterson's page.
Well, yeah, she's a creative person. She can come back with something far worse. But I think this is probably a good time to sign off. I know we got folks ready to head to bed and all that stuff. Katie, we really appreciate you coming on. Everybody, Nothing Special, Volume 1, there will be more. Through the Elder Woods is 400 plus pages of awesomeness.
416.
It's a lot of fun, and the artwork is gorgeous. And my favorite thing on a quick flip through is all the little comments in the marginalia. Just the little things going on around the edges.
Yeah, my inner Sergio Aragonés.
Yeah, it's fantastic. There we go. This Kaylee's is hanging on. This is like her top tier episode right here. It's got live cats and it's got Katie Cook and Andy Price. This is like her cup of tea.
Perfect.
But we really appreciate you guys coming on. Everybody have a great week.
Anytime.
Buy the book. We've got copies at Haven. If you're not local to Haven, buy them wherever you are. But buy the book. It's really simple. If you want creators to keep making good stuff, support them. Make sure that they can. The math is very easy. None of this pirating garbage, people.
Then go, for the love of God, give it a review somewhere.
Yes, indeed. I wanted to wait until I had read it, but yes, we're going to leave reviews for it for sure. But we will sign off here. If you guys want to hang on and chat a little bit after we go offline, that's cool. But we will see you guys later. Y'all have a great night.